Good evening and welcome to the January 17th special budget meeting. Members of the public were provided with the following methods to watch and or participate in this open meeting. Attend in person at the North Douglas Community Conference. Attend electronically via Zoom to observe the meeting or to speak to any item on the agenda. Watch the live stream by accessing the meeting on the Township's YouTube page. And finally, submit written comments to the Clerk's Division that are provided to council prior to the meeting and will form part of the public record. I'd now like to call the meeting to order and approval of the agenda, noting that items under 6.4D, a letter was added from Brad's House. Can I have approval, please? Councilor Williams.
Move by myself by Council Williams that council adopt the January 17th, 2024 special budget meeting council agenda as presented. With addendum.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. I now would like to do the Indigenous acknowledgement. I acknowledge that the land on which we gather today is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and the Neutral people. We acknowledge the enduring presence of the Indigenous people with whom we share this land today, their achievements and their contributions to our community. We offer this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation between Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples of Canada. And I think the most we have to take from this is to remember they're not a threat, but they want a partnership with us. They want to walk alongside us. They want to work with us to make our country safe and take care of the land and the water, and they cherish what they cherish so much. We can learn a lot, and I hope we move forward with them. So if we can pause to reflect, and also reflect that they remain safe, the Indigenous women, and what they've lost, and hope that we can do way better. So one more reflection, please. Thank you. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? Seeing none. Items for consideration: draft budget 6.1. The draft 2024 budget book was released on December 11th, 2023, and is available for viewing on the township website. Christina Rocks, the Treasurer, Director of Corporate Services, will present an overview of the draft 2024 budget, including budget discussion table number 3, interim measures to extend operating life of the ACC ice plant. Christina, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a brief presentation to go through, highlighting the 2024 capital budget as we had dealt with the operating budget on Monday night. For tonight's meeting, we are going to go over a few of the overviews, some changes since the last presentation of it in December. We'll discuss what has been pre-approved and the status of those items, some highlights, and then we'll go on to our next. Since we met on Monday night, they actually released the annual Canadian inflation rate for 2023. The average rate was actually 3.9%, and the December year over year was up to 3.4%. And on Monday, I told you the November was 3.1. So it's a slight uptake, which is typical at this time of year, but still remains well above the bank's target. The other factor that really drives this budget is the township's commitment to our green strategies and our Transform WR program. And in this budget, you will see that we have several greening initiatives. We have the LED light conversions within both the NVCC and the ACC. We also have the purchase of some hybrid vehicles. We have the installation of the EV charging stations and the street light LED conversions. I apologize, I have the wrong slide version up, so I'm just gonna highlight what the update is and I'll send around the update. I do apologize for that. The pre-approved budget items that were brought to council in October was the 2024 road resurfacing program that has been awarded and will be in progress. We have already purchased the fire protection equipment. The fire equipment apparatus is in research stages. We have actually awarded the deputy chief fire vehicle convention that was actually awarded earlier this week. The Elliott English Street intersection and English Street resurfacing, that tender will be issued at the end of January or the 1st of February for awarding by the 1st of March. We are reviewing our options for which sidewalks need replacement and spot repairs so that we can prepare a tender for the spring. The new well and the hydro service upgrades at the PW depot are well underway with Grandbridge, and we have been obtaining quotes for the new well. So those are on track. The leisures and communities purchase of a medium duty hoist truck, the tender has closed and that will be brought forward at the January 29th meeting for award. And the rehabilitation of the Victoria Park tennis courts and pickleball courts, that tender is out for public and will be closing on February 18th. In the 2024 capital, some of our larger projects are the 2024 road project. If you remember, when we went out to tender for 2023, we did not receive favorable pricing. So we actually postponed all of the road resurfacing projects last year, and this year it's such a high dollar amount because it's actually a combination of the two programs together. So we are hoping we did receive very favorable pricing in their tender, and so we are planning to complete all of the projects that we had been hoping for with that budget. We are continuing our lifestyle replacement of our vehicles, and where possible, we are actually obtaining hybrid vehicles. The new public works building for the personnel has been awarded, and the design work is the tendering has closed and been awarded in the fall, and we are well on our way with that project for construction in the spring and summer. We have several drainage improvement projects in this capital budget. We also have the design and rehabilitation of the ACC, as well as several parks. The main topic tonight that we have provided you a discussion paper on is really in regards to the interim measures to extend the life of the ACC ice plant. With that, there are many details in the report, which I could go over if you wish, or it really comes down to staff is proposing that council has three options at this point. Council has the option to continue with the 2024 capital budget as was requested in August, to have the $600,000 of professional services to redesign the full rehabilitation and renovations of the ACC and maintain that ice plant as is. We could have council adopt a resolution that would really provide direction that we would want to go with an interim replacement of the chiller and try and extend the useful life with the minimal repairs, or council can provide some other direction, of course. In terms of next steps, we are seeking council's direction on what they would like to do with the ACC and whether they wish to maintain what they had requested in August or whether they have wished to choose a different option for that project. If there's any other items in the capital budget, happy to discuss them in detail. And then, of course, at our next meeting, we will go over the 10-year and follow up on any other outstanding matters of the operating budget.
Councilors, questions? Councilor Jones.
I do have some other items that I'd like to just ask about, but for the interest of the public, do we want to just focus on the ACC first and then deal with the other items? I'm happy either way.
I would prefer we deal with the ACC first. I know the rest of the stuff they would find riveting, but I think, they probably got a little bit of things to do. So let's deal with those first. So, in regards to the ACC, did I not read a report about other options that would, allow for, some work with Cisco to allow us to continue operation as well as other children?
So, Madam Mayor, your report or your agenda is a discussion paper number 3. Does talk about an interim option. That was first introduced in August, when council was considering long lead items associated with the 10-year capital forecast. That same recommendation option has come forward as part of this budget cycle. And it links with what was released on Monday, which is discussion paper number 4, which formed part of the budget deliberations on February 1st associated with the 10-year capital forecast as it relates to some new pricing that we've received as we continue to work on the NDCC Twin Path Design Project. And coming out of that exercise, 2 things happen. Drawings that continue to mature, which allows for more accurate costing of certain aspects of the Twin Path project, as well as Mr. Raycroft has identified a significant number of changes to what the architect original design. The value engineering exercise has been able to lower the overall price by $2 million. So we're interrelated things that we over 2 separate evenings discussions. Tonight is dealing with the 12-foot capital, the other is the 10-year capital forecast. But the purpose of releasing the February 1st agenda earlier in the week is to try and give council a benefit of the synergies between the 2 strategy documents.
Council, I'm at your wishes. Do you wish to, do you want the speakers to go first, or do you want to discuss it for the speakers first?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna ask for Jeff Hall, please. Just before the speaker, they have 5 minutes each.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council, staff. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jeff Paul. Thank you for allowing me to voice my opinion on the future of our community needs and desires. I don't proclaim to be a politician or even a highly educated person. I'm a trucker. I live and breathe in this community and have done so for many years. I employ 300 people from this small town Piper Street address. My grandparents raised their families here. My parents did the same. I raised my family in Ayr, and now my grandchildren are growing up here in Ayr. Every single generation grew up in our arenas. Excuse me. Be it coaching the Ayr Rockets intermediate team of the 1960s or playing on it. Being a part of an All-Ontario Championship juvenile team in 1980 or a part of the original Ayr Centennials team. In those days, we filled the ACC. My kids and grandkids still playing ice sports in Ayr. Take the time on a Saturday this winter, go to the ACC and watch half-ice hockey. Take a note of how many people are in the stands. Take a look at how small, dark, undersized, dirty that the ACC really is. And ask yourself, do we really want this in Ayr? Personally, I'm embarrassed to have the number of visitors going through those doors that see what the ACC is. Trust me, they're not there for the facility. People don't really want to be there. Your staff doesn't really want to be there. Your renters don't really want to be there. It's no secret that our new facility of the NDCC is a jewel, and we're all proud of it. On December 27th, we hosted a two-game prospect series here in Ayr. We had in attendance 5 NHL teams and 40 NCAA, OHL, CIS, and other junior teams and scouts here in the NDCC. I personally met with many of these people and they all raved about our facility. Imagine what they would say if we showed them the ACC. What many of you may not understand is the embarrassment the ACC has become to our community. I lived through the 70s, playing hockey in Ayr. Oh, no ice. I believe our population was 1,265 in those days. We need to make sure our kids and our grandkids don't live through that again. The ACC has served its purpose, our town has grown, our tax base has grown. Our minor ice sports registration are huge compared to what they were in 1970s. It's time to move on. Back in 2009, our council's decision not to twin the ACC, or the NDCC, sorry, has cost this community millions of dollars. I believe the twin pad cost at that point in time was $3 million. We can't make that decision again and ignore what needs to happen. Repurpose the ACC, make the land available for something else. Do not waste millions of dollars on an old arena. In a simple trucker's slang, don't put perfume on a pig because it's always going to be a pig. You have estimates that will not be kept in line, as they never are, on an old building renovation. We need to twin the NDCC, lead the surrounding communities as a township who thinks forward and cares about providing its residents with a superior community to live in. Public information tells me the NDCC will be paid off this year. The NDCC was built as an arena for a future twin. It was never built for an office building, as it has been for years. I request that you also consider what that saved us as taxpayers, and now it's time to return it to its original purpose and twin the ice surface. I'm extremely proud to see my company name and many others on the donor wall, but I can tell you that none of those donated money for a township office. Allow the CCG to share the seed money left from what was raised in 2009, 2010.
Jeff, you're under a minute.
Move forward with the twin. I speak with many people around town. None of them think putting money into the ACC is a good move. I want to share my beliefs on how. We're in a downturn economy. Interest rates are high, and they have been higher than they have been for years. Allow staff the guidance to move forward, have the twin pad drawn up, ready to find funding. Second half of this year, our federal government will be starting to try and attract boats. Our economy will need a boost. Look at the savings in operating costs. Look at the available reserves in the township. My prediction is there will be grant money available, and we need to be ready to apply for it, win it, and do what should have been done over 10 years ago, twin the NDCC and close the ACC to ice. Thank you all. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Jeff. Any questions for Jeff? Seeing none, Michael, please.
For those that know me, the thought of talking for less than 5 minutes is a bit of a challenge, so I actually did make some notes, and I'll promise I'll stick to the script so we stay under 5 minutes. Thank you to Mayor Fox and Council for allowing me to speak today. My name is Michael Play, and I'm here representing the Center for the Community Group of North Dumfries, better known as the CCG. CCG is a registered charity formed by community volunteers in 2005. In collaboration with the township, we've been a driving force behind the promotion, conception, design, fundraising, and lobbying for senior government support of what is now the NDCC. The CCG has raised over $2.2 million in our Live and Play campaign back in 2009. The original target was $1.5 million, which was fully donated to the township for construction of the NDCC. But we raised beyond that to support the construction of the second ice pad, known as the Twin Pad. Through a grant program, through our grant program through time, we've applied our investment income to contributions to various enhancements to the NDCC and ACC. So it's part of all the rest. We are now focused solely on the mission of building the Twin Pad and plan to dedicate all of our funds to this as a community contribution. So let's review the current situation. A recreational needs study was done 2 decades ago and was repeated more recently. Both confirmed the requirement for 2 ice pads in our community. As Jeff has eloquently put, the numbers are quite big, and right now both are minor high in their rocks. The original NDCC concept always included the provision of a twin pad to replace the ice pad at the ACC. After all, the ACC is in its sixth decade of operation. A TSSA license for the aging ACC chiller will not be approved at its next renewal in the summer of 2025, and that's been facing critical decision-making regarding the second ice pad. In the August 10-year capital forecast special council meeting, the council decided to disband the twin pad concept and focus on replacing ACC as the second ice pad. Our view is that this is premature. One, we believe that the current budgetary estimate for the twin pad is excessive. As Andrew mentioned, the architectural drawings need to be completed as planned and a more refined budget established. We think it will come in less. The significant operating costs and energy savings of running a modern twin pad versus a revamped ACC need to be factored into the assessment. It'll be a heck of a lot. Revamping the ACC has fundamental limitations. It is much smaller than a regulation ice pad. It has limited parking and has a limited footprint. The broad consensus, and I've talked to almost all the ice users, among the ice users, that this will not meet their growing needs. They're actually decreasing in numbers as we talk. The significant continued growth of the company has not, the country, sorry, I'm putting my CEO hat on. The continued growth of the community has not been factored in the assessment of the affordability of servicing the debt related to the twin pad. We are growing. Our tax base is growing. Senior levels of government have not been aggressively approached for possible financial support. So what are our key recommendations? One, fix the AC safety chiller at a cost of $140,000 to secure the TSSA license and temporarily extend operating the ACC using a realistic approach to risk assessment and mitigation. Please see the report submitted by local volunteer and engineer Scott Martin for further details. This will buy some time to sort out the financing of the twin pad. Two, proceed with the twin pad option as the baseline with more accurate cost estimates and the $700,000 contribution from the CCG. Three, actively pursue provincial and federal government financial support for the twin pad with a better defined ask using the updated drawings and estimates. Be shovel ready, much like we were back in 2009 when we accessed the newly announced Build Canada Fund to build the NDCC.
Last minute, Michael.
Yeah. Or professionally assess the community, professionally assess the potential for a community fundraising campaign to support the twin pad, much like we did in setting up the original Living Place campaign. So in closing, the NDCC was supposed to be a facility that meets the needs of the community, including the twin pad. As we enter our bicentennial year, let's make sure that we provide the facility that our community needs for current and future generations. Thank you for the chance to speak today. I'll take any questions.
Any questions, councilors? Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
And Scott will be on Zoom. Scott, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I'm just trying to figure out how to start the video. Okay, there we go.
You have 5 minutes, Scott. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Madam Mayor. My name is Scott Martin, and I'm not like Jeff, old air. I'm new air. I moved to town in 1995, so I still feel air is very much my community, and I was heavily involved in the NDCC design. I was on several committees with Mayor Denouden at the time, and I helped steer it towards being a very energy efficient building, a very modern building, and I take great pride in that. I am retired, but my previous life was as the owner and president of a company called Efficiency Engineering. And our work entailed going into arenas, not all of our work, but we were, over the years I was involved, we were in more than 100 arenas across Canada. And our role in that is going into arenas and looking at their mechanical systems, their refrigeration plants, and seeing how we could make them more efficient and seeing how we could make them less costly for the municipality in life cycle costing terms. So I'm saying this not to impress you, but to impress upon you that I know what I'm doing. I sat down with Rob Raycroft, and he got me into the ACC mechanical room. Actually, it's a refrigeration room that I'd been in previously on work, but I have been in so many I didn't remember what it entailed in there. But Rob came across to me as someone that really knows his stuff, and it's really good to see that council and the municipalities working in that direction and in having hired staff that really know what they're doing. But his hands are tied there. The plant is old, and as we know, we need to replace the chiller in the summer of 2025 at the latest. I was asked by the CCG group to go in and assess the refrigeration plant to see whether we were being forced to do an entire revamp of it, which is the option I think that was budgeted, or whether we could do more risk mitigation type things and replace the chiller and more of a Band-Aid solution until the twin pad was built at the NDCC. So what I found was that I feel like there was a misconception, not within North Dumfries staff, but maybe within council and with the general public, that replacing the chiller would have a negative effect on the rest of the plant. It will not. It's a very static piece of equipment. You're basically replacing like for like. It's kind of like replacing the brakes in your car will not affect the engine life of your vehicle. I found that the refrigeration plant is old and tired, but it's been relatively well maintained, and it's not one device. It's a group of individual devices, and as these things fail, they can be replaced or repaired. And we saw that in December when I believe it was the impeller on the main brine pump went, and so it was replaced, and the refrigeration plant was up and running. There was some lost ice, which brings me to one of my points around there are ways to mitigate this risk above and beyond just replacing the chiller. In that if Rob and his group had proper controls and monitoring equipment, they would have figured out that the problem was that much earlier, and there probably would have been corrective action taken without any loss of ice. So, sorry, Mayor Fox.
You have any final minute?
Okay. So, in summary, I feel like it's my professional opinion that the ACC refrigeration plant can be maintained as is with the replacement of the chiller for the foreseeable future until the NDCC is twinned. Any questions?
Any questions, councillors? Seeing none, thank you, Scott. And Tim Berry, please.
Even the best for last, does not apply in this situation with these two guys. Plus that brainiac Mark. Good evening, Madam Mayor, Council, and staff. My name is Tim Berry, and I am fourth generation North Dumfries farmer, grandfather to three, two of which are Air Flames, Sully and Hutton, that we share with Mike, and I'm director of hockey and governor of the Ayr Centennials. As a young boy, I loved leaving our farm to come to town to play baseball and hockey at the ACC, because I was an Ayr boy, even though I lived on a farm. I'm so grateful to North Dumfries that we had all these programs and so many amazing community volunteers. In 1982, thanks to many community contributors with names such as Evie, Sales, Hall, Vincent, the Ayr Centennials began their journey. Thursday, October 7th at 8 p.m. to be exact. I was fortunate enough to be captain, and this guy here was our goalie. We went from junior D till 2016. We became junior C and won back-to-back championships Went over the fire code thanks to our wonderful fire chief, who let more than 1472 in. And we played championship hockey in front of packed crowds. After that, we realized that it was bigger and better things, and we decided we wanted to join the GOGHL and purchase the prestigious Kitchener Dutchman during COVID. And all that money came from our community during COVID. And Jeff Paul led it, and we oversubscribed. It shows you the community we're in. We are the smallest center in the GOGHL with the #1 attendance per capita. Just look around on Thursday nights, you know what I mean. North Dumfries has hosted hometown hockey, international tournaments with countries like Germany. And most recently, we had 1,700 fans in there on December 27th for our prospects tournament. We have been visited by over 60 NHL, OHL, and NCAA scouts in 2023 in our little town without the stoplight. We proudly witnessed hometown hero Jordan Sharon commit to Division I school, and we were approached by the Wellstorm to become their official affiliate. And we just recently learned that one of our players from last year's with the Storm, Rowan Top, was just ranked to go in the 6th round of the NHL draft. The first person that arrived to our prospect games on December 27th was the head scout of the Tampa Bay Lightning, complimenting on us on our event and facility. Best junior A facility round. That's coming from Tampa Bay Lightning. Our bid for the prospect games received no competing bids. We have geography and a top-notch facility in our favor. There are multiple opportunities in the near future to host both combines and other events in our league, as our league is pushing into higher levels, which you'll learn about later on. Just this past week, I was approached about running a referee's combine. All of this would need to be done on 2 rings. Unfortunately, some of these will not be an option with the ACCC. There's inadequate parking. As I saw last weekend, there was water dripping out of pipes in the dressing room. There's not adequate netting where the fans sit, and mechanical issues. I am at the ACC every Saturday and Sunday. A lot of time to sit with Mike, and we proudly watch Hutton and Solly. All the time I'm there, I'm just wishing we were at the Twin Pad. The kids wish it, the fans wish it, we all wish it. I have so many wonderful memories of the ACC, but they involve the people, not the building.
Last minute, my bad.
Okay. One area I really worry about the last weekend is that a child will someday fall from the unsafe area when you walk out to the players' ice, not from dressing room 6, from the other dressing rooms. That area is very unsafe. And it's a fall that would be disastrous. December 10th and 17th, those 2 weekends, our grandkids lost their ice time at the ACC for mechanical reasons. So there must have been hundreds and hundreds of kids that never got their ice. The township has moved out of NDCC, so we could meet our needs as the Air Centennials in this square footage. I think in the original budget, there was thought to the costing for the Air Centennials, and I think there's different options now that this move has happened. There's lots of options. My business, Barry's Asparagus, and our coffee company, and the Air Centennials, those 3, we all supported the CCG on every move, every golf tournament, under the belief that we were building a twin. The ACC should no longer be a nice option. Not supporting the twin, not supporting twin in the NDCC is letting our kids down and our community down. So please do the right thing. Thank you. for your
Thank you,
time.
Jim. Any questions, councillors? Seeing none. Can I have a motion for the speakers, please? Councillor Jones.
I only have to speak a motion for Speaker Jim Paul.
Please, Madam Mayor, apologize.
Oh, there's
We
separate
had
motions.
separate motions for each that we prepared, so we could consolidate them all. And Madam Mayor, just one additional item that we wish to implement it. Yes. Perfect.
Would anyone like to speak on this issue?
Yes, I would, but it might take me a minute to get there.
That's okay. They can do it together. So Williams, while Grant's coming out, take motions. Oh, okay. Pardon me? Yeah, consolidated. Hi, Brad, welcome.
Hi. Well, Madam Mayor and Council, it's certainly a privilege and a pleasure for me to be able to address this group today. And I think we've heard a lot about history and we've heard a lot about memories and nostalgia, but I think I'd like to talk about vision. And I think there was a lot of vision within our community over the years that when you drive around town and you drive through Victoria Park, somebody planted those trees 100 years ago. When you go and you drive through Cedar Creek and you see the expansive space that was put along with the school, which has allowed for ball diamonds and tennis courts and future facilities yet to come. And I think, you turn the corner to the new subdivision, you see the new parks that are sprouting up, and you see the new needs of our community and the people that we have. I'm proud to represent Air Minor Hockey. We have record registration this year. We have 70 players on U7 and under. We have 60 players U6, U18 level, which is the last years of hockey. So not only are we building for the future, we're also retaining the players that we have. And I think it's time now to think about the future needs. We're very proud that in March and April, Air Minor Hockey will be a very proud sponsor of the First Shift program here in Air. And that's going to bring kids that have never played hockey before, maybe never skated before, maybe from different cultures, different parts of our community. And we want a community and a facility that can be very accessible also as well. I'm very fond of the Rick Hansen Foundation that talks about getting everybody everywhere. And I think there's opportunities not just for minor hockey, for boys and girls and figure skating. There's sledge hockey, there's broom ball, there's lots of other opportunities that we could use an expanded facility at the MVCC. So it's a hard job, putting budgets together, putting planning together. But I think if we look in terms of a 2, a 5, and a 10-year vision, a plan and a budget, I think as a community, we're more than willing and ready to help. Thank you very much. Happy to take
Thank you
your
very much, Brad. Any questions? Seeing none, we'll just wait for the motion to be printed. Would anyone else wish to speak? Please come to the microphone, please, and let us know who you are, the record.
Evening. I didn't have anything formally prepared. My name is Jason Charette. I've been very fortunate to have spent the majority of my life in Air, and prior to that, we lived all over the province. We moved here in 1990, north of the tracks, that area that was frowned upon by so many for so long. I've been fortunate to have been able to participate in Air Minor Hockey as a coach for 11 years, and finally this year is my first year being able to just be a fan. I also participate in the Men's Sunday Night League, and we're supporters of the Air Centennials as well. I would just like to echo the comments made by those ahead of me that the ACC unfortunately has served its purpose, but sinking money into it further into a facility that, as Jeff said, looks at conflict You know, my son, he lost out his ice time those 2 weekends. Derek's son lost his ice time the next weekend for Sunday night hockey when the compressor was down. And I also think about how it would have looked if the weekend of the Silver Stick tournament, how it would have been if we had lost the ice for that weekend in both facilities. We have the Air Challenge coming up in a few weeks. That's another opportunity for disaster if we were to lose half of our ice time for a weekend. So I do strongly encourage the council to consider the proposal that the CCG's put forward and move forward to twinning the patch. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? I hate when I can't see all the photos. Okay, can I have the motion, please, Council Williams?
Moved by myself, seconded by Council Mullivan, that the presentation received from registered speakers Jeff Hall, Michael Clay, Scott Martin, and Tim Berry be received with thanks.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Now, councilors, it's time for to have a discussion. Would anyone like to start? I'm gonna say that I'm a little bit biased. My hockey career was in air. I played at the ACC. I remember, and that was when we were allowed to check people. I remember checking people so that I could sit down and let the boards and talk to them before the rest threw us off the ice. But my children were involved in the sports in town here. And it is a community sport sport. It does draw us together. The Sens games are amazing. I'm sorry I haven't been able to come out and I won't be able to tomorrow night because I've got meetings all night, but I will be back. And I think a lot of us here really believe in what this sport can do for a community. And that's the truth. What it really does for a community. It draws us together. And it makes us community. I think we all realize how much sports can do that. Not saying I'm prejudiced or anything, as Christine's looking at me. But I think most of us want to impact. But we also want to be able to hold up or find a way to make it happen. And I think some of the things that Rob has come up with and staff are a real option for us in working with Cisco in the plan that we read, as well as installing the new chiller and buying us the time. And I do believe, as I told the CCG, I believe in elections coming. And what's the first thing that happens when elections comes? They throw out money. And so, come on in, you can come in still, come on in. Brad did wonderful, you missed his little speech. I believe that, and that's why we're getting all the documents ready. Because as soon as it happens, and I have a really close relationship with the ministers in both federal and provincial, and as soon as it happens, they call me right away and say, get it in. I got a call yesterday for other grants, so, and Andrew Lucas got up, and he's getting those in. So we're getting ready for it to happen. Can I tell you when? No. Can I tell you we want to be prepared? Yes. And we can say, okay, we'll put it in the budget, the capital budget for 3 years, in the 3rd year, and or the 2nd year. But fact is, we have to be able to afford it. And I'm not saying I'm not afraid to go into debt, because you're right, we will be debt free this year. And I'm not afraid to go into debt, but it has to be reasonable for our taxpayers. We have to be able to do it. But I do not want North Dumfries left behind. Sorry, Councillor Scrivener, any other comments about that? Councillor Wills.
I have a question regarding the discussion paper. I have a point of clarification. So on page 20, the scope of work is outlined in 6 items. So the first one is the new ice plant, the second one is the new concrete pad. And then the 3rd, 4th, and 5th are about roof replacement, drainage, accessibility, repair, and rehabilitation of the exterior wall. Of the $600,000 that are being proposed there, how much of that is 1 to 2 versus 3 to 6? Because I think 3 to 6 are maintaining the building, not necessarily replacing the ice. So I'm thinking that should get done. We should be fixing the roofs and making sure we improve accessibility exterior.
Staff, who would like to take this? CEO McNally?
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, what page are you referencing?
Background.
Sorry, page 20 of the budget book or the staff report?
The staff report. And in the agenda, PDF on the agenda, page 20, it says that the discussion paper number 3, background, and then there's the scope of work to be undertaken. There's 6 items there.
So items 1 and 2 would be exclusive if you were going to put in a whole new ice plant system. Because not only would you be putting in the actual plant, but you would be putting in the distribution lines that would take the brine or the glycol out and put it underneath the concrete slab. So that would then affect obviously the concrete slab and the walls.
Correct. My question was, how much of the expenditure of $600,000 to retain consulting firm is related to 1 and 2 versus 3 to 6?
Almost 3/4 of the 600,000 design fee is related to the broader context of the refrigeration system and modifications required beyond that room. The room itself has to be enlarged to accommodate the needs. So the 600,000, approximately 2/3 is related to professional services for that scope.
So for clarification, CEO McNally, how much is for doing option 3? Is it option 3?
Well, options 3 to 6 on there talk about fixing the roof, fixing the drainage, improving the parking lot, dealing with accessibility improvements that we need to be doing for Iona, and repairing and rehabilitating the exterior wall, which I think is separate issues. I would propose to council are separate issues from whether or not we are going to be going ahead with the ice chiller. And I would support moving ahead with those, regardless of whether or not we move ahead with 1 and 2.
Comment, CEO McNally?
So Madam Mayor, if you draw back to August of 2023, that report identified that largely items 3 through 6 that Councilor Williams has talked about, which really have to do with the rehabilitation of the building or the property. Regardless of whether we have an ice surface or goes into time into a gymnasium, there are certain things we need to do with the building or property just because systems need to be replaced and or there are long-standing deficiencies that are causing other problems with the building. We had those already largely accounted for in the 10-year forecast that were spread over multiple years. What the consultant recommended, because we're largely doing that kind of rehabilitation work over about 3 or 4 year period of time, given the scope of the work, you're going to be constantly interrupting the business continuity of that building because the property is so small. You were largely going to have to close the building every time you did something of this major rehab. So he suggested if you're going to do this scope of work that's in that compressed period of time, just do it as one interrelated project. That way you're only affecting the users in the off season once. And so in the August draft, we cobbled all those things together into one number. And then what was layered on was the potential the council wished to undertake the major rehabilitation of the ice plant and associated systems. And that brought the budget number up even higher.
So if I understand you correctly, then 3 to 6 costs about $20,000.
In terms of overall professional fees, inspections, material testing, yes.
Okay, and then if we went through with the chiller and with the other options that were discussed in the paper, of finding out how to do lines with Cisco's and all that stuff, what are we talking in cost?
So the chiller system replacement is approximately $140,000 with contingency and net HST in 2024 dollars. That largely can be dealt with by our current ice maintenance contractor, Simcoe. And there will be limited professional services beyond that 140,000 because it's within their scope of work as certified ice technicians. And so they bring to us the design, they bring to us the installation and certification, all part of their responsibilities if that avenue were to be pursued.
And, sorry, councilors, any other questions? I'm not supposed to talk to you again. Councilor Austin and Councilor Rose.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So if we go ahead, I know that laptop's right between you and I can't see it. If we move ahead with the, fixing of the chiller, which I think is a good option. When it comes to consideration of the twin bed, let's say this chiller works and we buy time, with the ACC. We're having, somebody do a design on that twin pad, as we speak, like we're getting an engineer to put that together.
So Madam Mayor, through Councilor Austin, last term of council authorized an expenditure just short of about $400,000 to actually prepare tender-ready documents, drawings, specifications in support of the Twin Pad project. We reported twice to council with milestone drawings and budgets prepared by that design team. We've identified that we are now just past 66% design drawings, and we anticipate being back before council in the March, April 2024 time period with the tender-ready drawings and what's called Class B cost estimate. Class B estimate is the tightest pricing you can have in absence of being tested in the marketplace on competitive bids. So, yes, work has been continuing over the last 18 months. It's coming to a close in the March, April 24 time period. Council at that point in time will have a Class B estimate and tender-ready documents. And to use terms used by others tonight, they would then be shovel-ready drawings that will sit in a folder waiting for council to say, move ahead and either go after government grants or move forward, go into the marketplace for competitive bids.
Okay, thank you. That was my question, of whether this tender or this engineering was done yet or not. So March, April, we're gonna have, as you say, shovel-ready design. So hypothetically, if some sort of funding comes in the late 24 or early 25 or at some point in 25, even if we moved for budget reasons, if we move the twin pad out, how many years we need to, if we get the funding in that, we'll have that shovel ready engineering done so that we could put it to tender as soon as we find out we get this funding, because we have to include all that in our application for the money, correct?
So Madam Mayor, we Councilor Austin. Typically, on these types of programs, the government gives heavier weighting. If you can demonstrate that you're ready to go, because they're trying to incentivize or prime the pump. And if you can demonstrate that all you have to do is go through the competitive bid process, you're ready to go, they're going to give more favorable consideration. And so we would be in that position.
Okay, so then my final comment for that is, so we theoretically could keep that twin pad in there and just bump it year by year. We don't have to say, we can't afford this, let's put it out for 10 years. So we can keep it in there. We get this chiller thing fixed, which again, I think that's the best idea. My worry, my concern in the August meeting was I did not want to cut us down to one eye surface by the TSSA license expiring. So I was worried about that. So we kind of temporarily put in the cheapest option to try and take care of these things. So anyway, I think that's a much clearer vision for us, in my opinion. That we now can fix that chiller and
and we have the documents ready, shovel ready, then we can go as soon as we can figure out our financing for this.
And again, for the public's purpose, so you know, when you do the capital forecast, the 10-year capital forecast, it's a fluid document. The only year that is absolutely hard pressed that you have to pay for is the year you're in. So as Christina Brox told you in the beginning, our 10-year capital forecast for 2024 is already set up. And that's because, let's say we go with spring ice pad, okay? And let's say we do it in 2025. We will have to prepare in 2024 all the groundwork and the pre-work to get ready to build in 2025. So the year that you live in is the actual year that the capital forecast is true. All the rest are fluid, which means we can move between pad out 5 years, we can bring it in a year, down to a year. So it's a fluid moving document based upon the financial situations, the granting process, and everything else. And being ready, having documents ready, is fundamentally the one thing we need for when the grants start to come. And I did, Michael, I did go to the upper levels permit, and they said not this year soon. But they contact me. I mean, I got 2 phone calls this last 2 days from people saying, get an application in for this, we've got money, and it's gotta be done by January 29th. So poor Andrew, I got him jumping through hoops to get those grant monies in. So I have them contacting me on a regular basis. And so we're gonna get ready with the permission of council. And then we will work logically, and but if we can make this happen, we're gonna make this happen, in my opinion. And Councilor Rose, go ahead.
My apologies. I'm still banging on about those, the scope of work questions. I'm sorry. My apologies.
No, you don't have to.
So I'm just wondering, let's say we go ahead and just replace the chiller. What are the costs this year for items 3 to 6?
So Madam Mayor, through to Councilor Wilms, in the August report, we identified that items 3 to 6 will be approximately $3 million to undertake. So that would be the roof replacement, the parking lot improvements, the drainage works, the AODA compliance in terms of making improvements in terms of accessibility of the pathways, as well as the repair and rehabilitation of the lower courses of the exterior wall on 4 sides.
Thank you. That's kind of what I wanted to know, because if we do go ahead and say yes to the chiller, then 3 to 6 originally was planned across a multi-year strategy. Do you want to revert back to that multi-year strategy for that thing, or do we want to go ahead and spend the $3 million this year? This is why I'm harping about this.
300,000, is that not correct? Is it 3 million?
So that means 3 million, and we would not be able to do it this summer. We've lost the window to line up the trades to do that scope of work, literally 4 months out. We have to go to competitive market. We have to work between our shoulders of our operating season, which is basically April 1st, September 1st. We would be actually, if we're going to do work, we would be looking at earlier to regional profit. And we would be going out into the competitive marketplace in November. So that we'd be closing our bids in December.
Okay, so if we go with the chiller, there will be no money spent this year because that's going to happen next year. And the other items will also not cost us anything this year, but would have to get worked into the capital budget over the next few years.
That's correct. And so, if council is an item tonight, we're going to be back on February 1st. Each of those elements affects then later years in the 10-year capital forecast. And we would demonstrate how they could be plugged in on what years, how they could be sequenced, order of magnitude cost, and the funding stream for one or more of those aspects.
Thank you.
Councilor Roman and Councilor Tilly.
Madam Mayor, through you to the CEO, with regards to items 3 to 6 as well as Councilwoman was talking about. Since the gymnasium is something that's related to the growth of our town, of our village, would the $3 million repair be eligible for DC funding? Because right now we don't have gymnasium. If we held off on this work until after we close the ACC to ice, and then at that time, we'd be able to convert to a gymnasium, would that gymnasium be eligible for DC funding?
So Madam Mayor, through to Councilor Williams. The actual conversion of,
Councilor Nolan.
sorry, I apologize.
We both Dutch, I know it's hard.
Madam Mayor, through to Councilor Williams.
Yeah.
There's two elements. Items 3 to 6 are rehabilitation to the existing shell of the building. So regardless of what goes on inside the building, if you're going to continue to own and maintain this building for whatever its end purpose will be, you need to do this to protect the integrity and function of the building. Those elements are not DC eligible. If council decides to move forward of an adaptive reuse of the space, I'm talking about the ice surface, after it's retired, that's converted to a gymnasium. That component in the gymnasium, the adaptive reuse, would be eligible for development charges collection. It is presently not costed out or accounted for in our development charges bylaw. The 10-year capital forecast speaks to updating the development charges bylaw in calendar year 2025. We could include that, and a portion of that gymnasium cost would be eligible for financing under the development charges bylaw.
Councilor Tilley.
Thank you. So back in September 26th, Director Karen Hunter, myself, as well as Brooke Johnstone, met down at the ACC because of the meeting that had happened in August. I was just not satisfied. And so this process that we're all discussing has moved on beyond that. But one of the components, or one of the major components to that, was that we do need to just continue using this ACC for now. And in that way, there's a few things that were noticed and were pointed out by the director and by Brooke Johnstone, was the drainage issues on the south side of the building that come off from the ditch. And the reason why I bring this up is that we have such a good representation of the air hockey group here. I'd like to get some feedback on what's important to them as well. I mean, they're using the space and it's really important to them I know they don't love it, but it's still got to be functional and still be able to use. And I know it's because of staffing issue when those mudslides do come into the building and do affect the surface there. The cleaning up of the dressing rooms is something as well Brooke had mentioned, that they're just dilapidated in a state of whatever. And I'm not saying we need to, sometimes putting a little bit of lipstick on at least makes it not as terrible. If that's the case, if we need to clean it up a bit for the current usage. And then there's the block wall degradation that's happening on the north side. If that's something we need to. And all I'm suggesting is that during our discussions about the budget, that we include maybe some dollars in the foresight of that to make sure that we're taking that. Other than that, I couldn't thank Mr. Scott Martin any more than I possibly could, because he did exactly what I was attempting to do in basically layman's terms. I always try to understand where we're at, and this report finishes that for me. I'm 100% comfortable with making that decision to do the repairs, just strictly keep that the plant running as is, and I would be happy to vote on that, make that happen at any stage now.
Any more questions or comments, councillors? Seeing none, Councillor Hosmer, you have the motion.
It sounds like I'm taking number 2, or do you want me to read them both?
Councillor Williams. Councillor Williams.
I think we need to have an adaptive commission because we still want to continue with, I would like to see us continue with items 3 to 6. And the children.
See,
So I think that's different than the one we got there in motions.
see,
So Madam Mayor, if it helps Councillor Williams in that regard, if you want to deal with the 2024 budget, that would be a new resolution, and whatever direction or changes you want to make with 2024 capital spend. The rehabilitation components, items 3 to 6 are going to affect future years in the forecast. And so maybe the direction would be, as a separate resolution entertained tonight, is, for the February 1st meeting, when we come back to talk about the 10-year capital forecast, that you would like to see analysis, potential strategies associated with rehabilitation to keep the building and property in a state of good repair, related to the ACC. And the other aspect is if you are then migrating toward doing the capital spend on an NBCC twin pad, that you would like to see what that looks like in the 10-year capital forecast, including a funding strategy. And so now you would, and then the adaptive reuse of the interior of the ACC once the ice surface retires at the ACC for the purposes of gymnasium / indoor recreation. And we would bring all of that information, funding strategy, schedule for the delivery of that broader scope of work for review and being on February 1st.
So
I'd like to pass such a resolution.
So Kyle will take that up for us. Council Austin.
Just clear, are you adding, you wanting this added in now? Or
It's going to be a separate resolution for us to look at.
voting for items 3 to 7? Well, I respectfully like to wait on it because, I think that possibly Council Rowland and I might need some advice before we vote on something like that.
See you again. I think at this time we voted for doing that motion and until further discussion. But on this motion, we're dealing with 2024 and the items are first part one is the 2024 capital budget be adopted with the authorization is currently included to expend up to $600,000 to retain professional services to prepare design drawings in support of a major rehabilitation renovation of the ACC, or that the 2024 capital budget be amended to include installation of a replacement chiller unit as part of the 2025 capital budget for the ACC ice plant and the expenditure of $600,000 to retain professional services in the 2024 for design drawings of the ACC to support the major renovation of the ACC be abandoned. So, your thoughts? Which are we selecting? Number one is Council Kelly.
Sorry, just to reiterate what I heard the CAO McNally say, is that, and maybe this might, what Council Williams said, is that all the repairs are already planned more or less in the future. This is something that's already going to happen according to maintenance of our buildings. It was just planning on happening and sooner all at once. So what was going to happen was all the repairs were going to happen in the time period of the rehabilitation or the renovation of the ACC. And by doing this right now, if we were to move with option 2, we're not abandoning the repairs. They're just going to happen in the timeline that staff has kind of predestined that to be. That's maybe a little bit of clarification from what I understood.
Would that be correct, CAO McNally? Almost. One of those nights.
Council, the only thing in the 2024 budget right now, based on the direction of August, is you want to spend $600,000 to do a major redesign and continuation of the life of the ACC as an ice surface. That's not where you are. You want to do the interim measure to extend or bridge the life of the ice surface, hoping for future opportunities to develop the twin path. Then you would look at the alternate resolution, which is to change direction and authorize in 2025 the replacement chiller unit that end, you would not pursue the $600,000 spend in calendar year 2024. That's really what's in front of you. Once you deal with that, I'll come back and talk about how we can talk about the February 1st meeting and provide comfort to councilors Oster and Rowland as it relates to them being to assess whether they can participate in discussions in February or not.
Okay, so let's go forward with the motion, please, Councillor Austin. And I assume we're selecting, is anybody not want option two?
So I mean, Madam Mayor, just on procedure. So the mover and seconder, to determine which option it is, they are putting forward a motion before council, for council to, vote on. So yes, the onus is on whoever wishes to make a motion, mover and seconder, to determine there's two options that have been outlined by, well, three options really, the two principal ones that are reflected in the motion for consideration. So mover and seconder will put forward a motion that will be one of those options for the council will then make the determination. That's
Councillor Austin, Councillor Turner,
all move for the option.
would you please check?
Okay. Move on myself, second by Councillor Tully, further to FIN report number 01/2024, discussion paper number 3, interim measure to extend operating life of the ACC ice plant. That the 2024 capital budget be amended to include installation of a replacement chiller unit as part of the 2025 capital budget for the ACC ice plant. And that the expenditure of $600,000 to retain professional services in 24 for design drawings at the ACC in support of the major rehabilitation renovation of the ACC be abandoned.
All those in favor? That's carried, thank you. CEO McNeely, go ahead.
So, Madam Mayor, to assist in the discussions and provide common direction to staff about expectations for the February 1st meeting and the 10-year capital forecast. We published a report with the 10-year capital forecast on Monday. It's now available for the public to review and view in front of council. Based on tonight's discussion, there are potential implications as it relates to other elements, both with respect to if we wish to maintain a second ice service, where that would be. It would appear now that by default we're migrating to the twin pad option. There's a cost exposure. There's a potential funding stream, including potential government grants. There's the rehabilitation of the ACC to continue to maintain it as a recreation complex. And the potential of what could look inside that building once the ice surface is retired, if and when the twin pad program of the NDC. So the second motion to provide direction to staff as it relates to coming back discussion paper that would introduce potential changes to the published draft 10-year forecast for review and debate on February 1st. And so, very high level, it's just to staff. Staff are to return for the February 1st meeting, review the 10-year capital forecast with a strategy and a discussion paper on life cycle replacement for the ACC major building components to maintain the recreation complex and funding strategies, timelines, and opportunities.
So it's not a final decision. We're not voting. It is a capital forecast. So it would be similar to the situation you've already gone through where you were found not. Correct? Councillor Wells.
If it helps, I can definitely put forward such a motion, and maybe Councillor Tilly could then second it, so that we don't have Councillor Rowland or Councillor Austin involved in
I don't think it matters. If we're in discussion, we're in discussion.
But again, it's,
Water, either in it or not.
but again, it's the 10-year capital forecast. It does not come real until we knew that it's in. So it is still a fluid document.
But Madam Mayor, the distinguishing element is for the maintenance and continuation of a recreation complex.
I'm not sure I captured everything that the CAO outlined there, so something I simply put down, but I'll see if that's corrections to.
Isn't this riveting?
Add a little bit on that, and I'm still not set up on the scripture, so I haven't just asked to do some work plan.
I think the main motion that you want to prepare with vote. If you would like to stay, the rest of the night will be just as good. Or you may leave should you wish to. You will not offend us.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Tim. It was good to see you. Thank you for coming.
All the best. Well, but I also see.
Okay. See, but that, my feeling on to it all. My fault.
And don't worry about it, just keep us in the loop and that.
Did it not cost us? I want to just try again. Oh, you know where it went? Before to that. Somewhere, someone, some of the print. Sorry, you have to do this.
Yeah.
You headed up to Irene, you're out of here?
You take work.
Oh, okay, take care. Oh, right, it's Wednesday.
After rehabilitation slash adaptive reuse. Oh, // After ACC, you want to insert as a rental facility.
Facility.
After twin pad, which was at the end of the second line, you're going to insert /NDCC.
This thing has a mind of its own. Schedule, yep.
Instead of financing, you're going to substitute funding. After or the, so after
Yep.
or
Such a graphic.
consideration as part.
So that's to bring forward further report regarding amendments of the 10-year capital forecast regarding proposed rehabilitation / adaptive reuse of the ACC as a rental facility and the twin pad / NDCC schedule and funding for these projects for consideration as part of the February 1st council meeting.
You got it.
That's what Joyce said, Katie said. You can find it harder because you know how important it is. Which one's that? Oh, we have to start that, sorry. Right, go on, right, so that one, then they got to. So Council Rhodes, motion please.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Williman, that staff bring forward further report regarding amendments to the 10-year capital forecast regarding proposed rehabilitation and adaptive reuse of the ACC as a rental facility and twin recreational facility as a recreational facility. As a recreational facility and twin pad NDCC schedule and funding for these projects for consideration as part of the February 1st council meeting.
Will you change that, please? And also, please don't initial the change. I'll need you to initial on this one. So you initial on this one, please. This is the. You don't need to change. All those in favor? It's carried, thank you. And now, moving right along, next is correspondence, Council William, please. She has questions, I should go right ahead. Thank you.
Okay, my first question is related to number 8, the Dale Heritage Cultural Landscape Study, which I believe is being budgeted at $100,000. Seeing that a lot of the changes in the Ontario Heritage Act at any point that are occurring anyway, I was wondering whether it would make it, whether this study still makes sense, since I don't know, it just felt like there was just so much changes here that I wasn't sure that spending $100,000 on this would be worth it.
Who would like to respond?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through to Council Williams. So Council Williams, you're quite correct. The whole Bill 23, which was approved in 2022 by the legislature and is in effect, brought about significant changes to the Ontario Heritage Act. One of the key changes is that our current built heritage inventory, which lists approximately 350 to 380 properties across all North Dunford that have heritage elements or some significance in terms of past ownership, related to one or more of those listed topics. Under Bill 23, council has to make a decision by the end of 2024 as to whether or not to move one or more of those properties to a Part 4 designation under the Ontario Heritage. The council does not migrate properties off of the heritage inventory list into a Part 4 designation under the Heritage Act, then all of the properties on the current heritage inventory list will disappear. And those provisions under section 27 of the Act will no longer apply, which means we would no longer have a heritage inventory. We would not be able to reintroduce any of those existing properties onto a new heritage inventory list for a period of at least 5 years. This study was to retain a third party to work with a scope list that staff would make an initial cut of a review of those 350 to 380 properties and focus on perhaps 30, 40 properties that demonstrate characteristics that would probably meet the criterion to support a Part 4 designation. And so this 100,000 was to bring that third party in, look at those higher quality properties or buildings, and then do the detailed analysis, see whether or not they meet sufficient criterion to actually move to a presentation to council for consideration of Part 4 designation for the end of calendar year 2024. Now, the caveat is this: buildings or properties, Scorch, taken by an independent party, qualified, may demonstrate that there could be, I'm going to make up a number, 20 properties that are worthy of designation. Historically, the township has only advanced forward with Part 4 designations where there's been a willing property owner. And so if the owner did not want such a designation, the issue is not pursued anymore. Under the Ontario Heritage Act, the township does have the ability to serve notice of an intent to designate and classify a property to a Class 4 designation, and the owner has the right of appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal. And the Ontario Land Tribunal on that appeal would then adjudicate whether or not merits and tests set out as the criterion and regulation to evaluate whether a property rises to a level worthy of a Part 4 designation. That is a very confrontational process because we're talking about private property, private building. And as I said, historically, we've done that move to a Part 4 designation where we have council really has to decide whether or not, at the end of the day, if you identify a property and you don't have a willing landowner, are you going to move ahead with that designation without the support of the property owner?
Council said some interesting thing that we have to listen. We've never done that before. We've always had people come forward because I sat on what was called Black Act before, and Councilor and I set it up there for a while. What are your thoughts? Because if we do go forward with this, we're saying that we're forced to we may have to force people. So Councilor Williams and the Councilor.
So I don't like the idea of forcing people. I really don't. You know, it is their private property, and though if we start to lose a heritage building in the history of the design and whatnot, at the same time, it feels far too confrontational to enforce something like this. I am concerned that we're going to spend $100,000 and maybe 3 or 4 homes could be added to the list. And I'm not sure if that's real good value for money, which is why I brought this up.
Council Rowland.
Madam Mayor, so, as former chair of the Heritage Committee, I can tell you that there's no appetite for forcing designations on anybody that's not a have. So the only thing I would suggest is if we didn't pay $100,000, that'd be fine, but I think we need to look at the list. Perhaps we should reach out to those 20 or 30 properties that we staff, when we deem to be worthy of designation, perhaps contact the homeowners and say, would you be interested in having this designated, yes or no? And go ask them. And if they say no, then not enforce it. But maybe we should at least sort of put out a last call and say, if anybody want to designate, because after the Heritage Act provisions expire at the end of the year, that'll be it for 3 or 4 years. So anybody is thinking about designating, maybe we would outreach to them and see if they're interested, and if not.
So going on that line of thought, Council Rowland, who would go through the list to look at 20 or so homes?
Madam Mayor, I could contact some phone numbers of the Heritage Committee that I'm still in touch with that probably could aid us and perhaps staff.
I think that's a great idea. What do the other councillors think? Councillor Tilly?
I'm gonna absolutely since we have Councilor Roman's experience, I've noticed as well. I don't, from what I understand, no, most of the subject lands that would be anything that might have been forcible have been done years and years and years ago. So I guess that's my question. Is there anything outstanding that we as council would feel negligent and not, at least, not obviously not strong arm, but really making it obvious to them? And then I guess that's what you're suggesting. That's what I'm fine. Then I'm fine.
CEO, would we recommend a motion for this?
So, Madam Mayor, I guess there's 2 things. One, yes, we can assist, Councilor Rowland and some members of the former MAC or others that have a passion for heritage and built form. Wish to assist in sort of doing a quick environmental scan of the approximate 350 homes on the current list. As I said, having looked through the listing several times, we're really looking at approximately 35 properties. We would be able to identify those property ownerships and maybe either a visit or a formal letter to go to those handful of property owners and inquire about their interest. And if they do, we still have to demonstrate the scoring matrix against the criterion regulation to demonstrate that the property meets 2 or more of the criterion or worthy of a heritage designation. It also helps frame the description of the heritage attributes we wish to protect. In the bylaw, we advance that far. So we would still need some technical support. First of all, it does have a certain skill set to it, but more importantly, it's also a time crunch and capacity to actually undertake it, which would now be truncated period of time. So I'm not sure it needs $100,000. If I look later in the year, if we're really scoping the property down, but we would need some expense for that. So perhaps what might be advisable is right now we are showing the 100,000 coming out of reserves. The council to set this one singular project aside, we could return back, that might be, in the July period. And we can bring an interim report return to council. And if there are roughly 20 properties or 30 properties, we would have that discussion with those owners leading into that July report. And they come back to say, council, 25 properties. They really meet, in our opinion, the test. But we have 5 landowners that are actually willing to participate with us. Now we're scoping the cost to the scope of professional services we need for those 5 willing properties. We would ask for an amendment to the 24 capital budget to have the money sitting in reserve. And council could then do an amendment to the 24 capital budget, authorize whatever that new spend is, And we would then finish up the project.
So again, do we need a motion to?
Yes, because right now if you were to approve the 2024 budget, you would be authorized with 100,000. That's not perhaps where we'll be if I look later in the calendar year.
Just continue. Well, he's doing that, you want to do it next week? We'll bring it up.
All right, next item is number 15. Which is the ground mounted digital reader signboard by the fire station. I have a couple questions for this one. One is the current sign ready for replacement? Is this kind of like the year where it should get replaced? The second question is, what kind of information will we put there? Since it talks about how to convey relevant information for the people of traffic as it passes along Scott Street, regular recorder. I was just wanting to question this expense, based on whether or not it really is necessary place to sign, and what kind of messages would be there that would aid vehicle traffic.
So, Madam Mayor, there is a current ground mounted sign. It's backlit, so there's hydro to it, and it's illuminated such that when darkness appears, you can still read whatever the message is. The current reader board, you go out and you clip on the letters to make up your words. Okay, so it's a manual form, and every time you change your message, you have to obviously remix the letters accordingly. What is proposed is to keep obviously the current hydro service and the ground mounted structure. We've been taking the letterboard component out and fitting inside of the current frame a new digital reader. And if by program then, similar to what we do out front here at the NDCC, we can program messages. And we can program multiple messages per day. We can put them on a schedule so that, say of argument, it shows up on a Tuesday, Thursday, and on a Saturday. We can do it by time of day or whatever. In terms of the messaging itself, similar to what we do today, largely it's about awareness and outreach and education related to either emergency management and or fire prevention. But we also have the ability to use that in the digital format, because it can easily be programmed. If there's key messages of council, which is to spread related to an upcoming event or something that's actually happening in that moment in time, we can use the digital reader board to key out whatever that message is. The cost for this is approximately $26,000. And we've shown that 21,000 coming through donations and 5,000 is coming out of the equipment.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
So it is project B8. Yeah, it's in Bob. And it's built heritage / cultural landscape study.
This is.
Madam Mayor, I just read to make sure that I've got what council is understandable for the CAO and treasurer, so we've got further report, finance, 01-4. The 2024 capital budget, we amended to complete the project, the B8 built heritage / cultural heritage study. Staff review the scope of heritage designation needs and opportunities for further report to council and the potential limits of the budget. Capital. Is that suitable for what?
Was it in July?
I'm not too sure. I'd rather not be tied to
Okay.
a month. I don't know how quick we're gonna get the volunteers.
Right.
But we will be returning this calendar.
Right. Okay, and, we are going to look at that. Yeah, I guess $20,000 in.
We have some very community-minded individuals and corporations.
Excellent.
So my next one was for, number 19, the cemetery management software. I really see that this would be something that the Cedar Creek Cemetery would also greatly benefit from. So I'm hoping that they could get contacted and included in any opportunities around training and whatnot related to that software, so they can see whether or not this is something they can adapt. And I'm just hoping that, I know that those are in there, but I'm really hoping that they can be there basically from the ground.
Councilor Rowland, then see you on.
Mayor, through to, my colleague. Do we have an MOU with the Cedar Creek Cemetery? Because my understanding is that the Air Cemetery has always in place because of the MOU. So are we putting the cart before the horse? Should we have the MOU in place first and then reaching out to Cedar Creek Cemetery, all these services?
See you on McNeil.
So, Madam Mayor, I'm going to speak to, if I could, both Councilor Williams and Councilor Rowland. So Councilor Rowland is correct. Through the memorandum of understanding with the Air Cemetery company, the township did make a commitment that we would acquire licensing software to manage cemetery. This software is a very powerful tool. We would be using our CAD GIS system to essentially, for lack of a better term, set up the grids across the cemetery, both those that are occupied as well as future plots that would be available. And you would, where we have information either by an occupant of that space or someone has acquired it, not yet occupied, we would be able to letter and code accordingly to the database. What it does, it allows, in this case, the Air Cemetery Board to have access to it through our remote portal. And as they make sales of plots, the columbarium, as the case may be, or someone deceases and now occupies a space, it allows us that just-in-time referencing. So it helps them from a management perspective. We indicated that the township wanted to champion the software. Partially because we have the technical staff that can actually use the CAD and GIS systems that we have that will interface with this. But also, we have a couple of properties that we manage that are historical cemeteries. And we need to catalog and inventory those addresses. And yes, we had already in our own mind, this is going to Councilor Rowland's question, dealing with the Cedar Creek Cemetery and the other cemetery on those as well. This is a very powerful tool. It's a way of assisting these third parties continue to look to the future and to leverage the capacity the township has.
Okay, but to Councilor Rowland's question, since his cemetery is part of our township, I think regardless of an MOU, they could be invited to training sessions, whatever, ahead of time, so that there's more efficiency. And I think it'd be great for them to know that this software exists and this option exists, so that they can contemplate using it the same way. Because right now, the inventory of that cemetery from the little I've gathered could definitely benefit from a more database.
Councilor Rowland.
Madam Mayor, through you to the CEO. I'm just curious, what is the responsibility of the township corporation towards all the various cemeteries? Do we have to oversee all the cemeteries? I thought the idea was they ran independently. Only the Air Cemetery has an MOU in place, so I'm not sure what our relationship is with Detweiler or with Cedar Creek.
So, Madam Mayor, through you, Councilor Rowland. At this point in time, the township has no obligation to responsibilities related to the Detweiler or Cedar. They are both operating in accordance with the legislation. They have annual reporting requirements and maintenance obligations. The township historically has provided a community grant to the Cedar Creek Cemetery to help defray direct costs associated with grass cutting and trimming. And generally speaking, that allocation defrayed their day-to-day maintenance costs associated with grass cutting and trimming exclusively. Township, by default, as by legislation, had to take over some older, I may use the word abandoned, but I don't mean it in a negative sense. There is just no one around. And so the legislation by default signs it to the municipality. And so we do have some facilities that we manage exclusively from the perspective of grass cutting. We do our annual reporting as part of the legislation for those properties to the appropriate minister. But we are not, could not tell you today which plots there are, where they are, who is in them. I can't even tell you if there's spots potentially available. There is a huge gap of information. We ourselves, as a corporate entity responsible for those satellite remote facilities, we should be better tracking and inventorying for this.
If I can, before you pass on, actually, we did a lot of, we hired the professionals to the Pioneer Cemetery on the corner of Drexler Road and. Yes, and so that was actually an old burial ground, and a lot of the things are circulated, we had a lot of bonds were putting together, the families from the Sumo Plain. The Boss Cemetery, they always thought it was the Button Rangers that had come up here, and we did a study of that, and they figured that some of the graves had moved because they couldn't find the exact location to it, so again, that's ambiguous. That's on Ward 4 on their side of it's actually on the Boss farm. And they assumed it was Button Rangers, but we don't know. So I know those two were actually professionals were brought in to find out where the graves are. There should be documentation on the Pioneer one, because that was all documented, so was the Boss.
There is very little information. What you can find.
Sure, it's somewhere, just a moment, right here.
It is not in the archival records.
That's a long
Mayor, with regards to the Pine Cemeteries, I was on the Black Act that time.
one.
You were there as well. And I remember going out to the Boss farm. Mother from office. Grew up there in the mud. But maybe those records are in the Black Act files. I know the Black Act that was doing that work.
Yes, that's the problem. Do we have the record?
So
But regardless of
property
that,
custodian within the ministry. There's nothing there. We have a very, very thin annual reporting of the properties that we are managing. We are not managing the Moss Cemetery. Because it truly hasn't been located exactly. Other than geographically.
Madam Mayor, I was just going with regards to the Cedar Creek Cemetery and the debt wallet. Before council speculates on what these groups may or may not need, perhaps we need to have a meeting with respect to the cemetery and the directors and find out what do they actually want all this stuff? Do they want our interference? I don't think it's up to us to make that decision. They need to come to us and ask us what they want the system with. And if they don't want anything, then we should be force something on them. So I like, rather than us debating something that we know nothing about, but rather that they would come to us, approach us and just their ask.
Councilor Rose.
I'm not saying we should force this on them, but I think it would be nice for us, as a courtesy, to provide, to let them know what we're doing here. So and not all of them live in, like the folks who maintain the Cedar Creek Cemetery don't live in North Dumfries. Proper, and I think it would be nice for them to know that this is available, because right now, I get the indication that records are perhaps not as organized as they could be.
I'm pretty sure that knowledge does not want us involved in pretty adamant in protecting. Okay, but anyways, going with what we have here, the motion is here, Council Rose, can you read it, please?
Okay, moved by myself, second by Councillor Tilly, that further to FIN report number 01-2024, that the 2024 capital budget be amended to delete project B8 Build Heritage Cultural Heritage Study, and that staff review the scope of heritage designation needs and opportunities for further report to council and amendment to the 2024 capital budget.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Getting back to the cemetery issue, you brought that up, so, what are you asking for something specific?
I was just, my ask was just that, staff reach out to the Cedar Creek Cemetery folks, and maybe I was unaware of the Jetwater Cemetery, to let them know about these options. Because if the township is paying for one cemetery, it makes sense that other cemeteries also are made aware and that they can choose from them.
Councilor's thoughts? Councilor Tilly, Councilor Larkin.
Just in regards to making them aware, from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, CEO, there's no additional cost to use it at multiple locations. This is when you have the product or this software, you're able to use it as you see fit.
Madam Mayor, to the county code, this being directly also follow up on Councilor Wells. No, there's no additional cost directly associated with the license and the annualization of that. Yes, it would be staff time devoted. I mean, obviously, the bigger the footprint, the more time involved. But in terms of the capital budget and if I look in the future years, the operating license for the software, no, there's no additional cost of that part. Council has already directed us other than to have discussions with Cedar Creek Cemetery trust. I mean, these were trustees. To talk about their longer term strategy, opportunities where we might be of assistance to them, and by natural extension, this discussion about software is part of that discussion. And I'm already obligated in the earlier position taken by council on Monday night to return in the following report to township council specific to the Cedar Creek Cemetery.
Councilor Austin.
Yeah,
Okay,
stole my thunder.
so, are we adding that line to it?
Certainly, why not? For sure.
So you can reach out to them and see if they want any involvement. I don't think you'll find they will. I think they're a pretty strong organization and like to do things themselves. I was involved with the revolving of the Jetwater House. Anyways, okay, so, staff is still directed, next one, Councilor Rose.
That was it.
That was it. Councilors, any other questions or comments on it?
Okay.
All right. I can move this side of this. And, the next motion I have is for correspondence, Councilor Rowland, please.
So for Council Williams, the following public correspondence received information, correspondence received from Brad Sales, and Matt Bucky are the egg services and minor regular.
All those in favor? Carrie, thank you. There's no bylaw, there's no code, we can do open business arising from code, confirmatory bylaw, please, Councilor Williams. Oh, a lot to you.
Moved by myself, second by Councilor Rowland, the bylaw number 3456-24, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council on January 17, 2024, be read first, second, third time, and be finally passed, signed, and sealed by the mayor and entered.
All those in favor? It's carried. 3, 4, 5, 6. And can I please have the adjournment, please, Councilor Tilly?
Moved by myself, second by Councilor Oscar, that whereas business before the special budget council meeting has been completed at 7:53 p.m. and be it resolved that meeting adjourns and meets again on Monday, January Yes, then Monday, January 29th at 6 P M for council meeting.
All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you.
Cool.